She was promised to another man, but fate delivered her into his bed of loneliness. The sun was dipping low over the rugged hills of Willow Creek, painting the sky in blood-red streaks that made the whole damn world look like it was bleeding out. That's when the first shot cracked through the air, sharp as a whip, shattering the dead silence of the cemetery. I froze for a split second, my hand instinctively dropping to the Colt holstered at my hip. 45 years on this earth had taught me one thing: in the Wild West, trouble didn't knock, it kicked the door down. I was Elijah Hawthorne, a rancher with calloused hands and a heart scarred deeper than the canyons out yonder. I'd come to pay my respects, or maybe just to stand in the shadow of death again, reminding myself how empty life could get. But now, here I was, staring down a gang of outlaws, 4 of them, scruffy as coyotes, shovels in hand, digging up fresh graves like they were panning for gold. And damn if they weren't after the rumors of buried valuables with the dead. The grave they were violating belonged to Abigail Thorne, a poor soul who'd just been laid to rest that afternoon. "Back off, you thieving bastards," I bellowed, my voice echoing off the weathered tombstones. One of them, a lanky fellow with a scar twisting his lip into a permanent sneer, swung his shovel like a club. I drew my pistol faster than he could blink, firing a warning shot into the dirt at his feet. Dust kicked up, and he stumbled back, cursing under his breath. The leader, a burly man with a black bandana tied round his neck, leveled his rifle at me. "This ain't your fight, old man. Walk away, or we'll bury you with her." My blood boiled. Abigail might have been a stranger to me, just a young girl of 20 who'd wandered into Willow Creek 7 months back, belly swollen with child and no ring on her finger, but no one deserved this desecration, especially not her, gone too soon after birthing those twins. I squeezed the trigger again, this time grazing the leader's arm. He yelped, dropping his weapon, and the others scattered like rats in a barn fire. I chased him off with a few more shots, the echoes fading into the twilight as they vanished over the hill, panting. I holstered my gun and knelt by the disturbed grave, shoving the loose dirt back with my bare hands. The autumn rain had already turned the ground to mud, sticking to my boots and coat like regret. Why the hell had I gotten involved? Maybe it was the loneliness gnawing at me, same hollow ache that had followed me since losing my wife Eliza 16 years ago. She died in childbirth, our son stillborn, leaving me with a ranch full of echoes and a bed colder than a winter night. I'd built that life for a family, but fate had other plans, cruel ones. As the last light faded, I heard voices approaching. The townsfolk were returning? No, the funeral had ended hours ago. I wiped the mud from my hands and stood, watching as a small crowd trickled back, curious souls drawn by the gunfire, no doubt. Sheriff Harlan Reed led the pack, his badge glinting under the rising moon. He was a grizzled man in his 50s, with a mustache that drooped like his sense of justice in these parts. "Elijah? What in tarnation happened here?" Harlan demanded, his eyes scanning the upturned earth. "Outlaws," I grunted. "Tried to rob the grave. I ran him off." He nodded, not surprised. Willow Creek was a speck on the map, tucked between the Rockies and the endless prairie, where law was as thin as the air up high. Abigail Thorne's plot. "Poor girl. You know her?" "Barely," I admitted. "Saw her around town, washing linens for pennies. No family, no husband. Just ... alone." Harlan spat into the dirt. "Yeah, well, that's the West for you. Eats the weak and spits out the bones." He glanced at the fresh mound. Funeral was something else. Rain pouring down like God's tears. Folks huddled under hats and shawls, whispering about those babes she left behind. The twins. A boy and a girl, born 3 days prior, healthy by some miracle but orphaned in the blink of an eye. Abigail had given her life for theirs, her body to frail after the ordeal. I'd stood at the back of the gathering earlier, my coat heavy with dampness, listening to Reverend Harlan's same name as the sheriff, but no relation mumble scriptures that got lost in the howling wind. "The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away," he'd said, but it felt empty, like praying to an empty sky. I hadn't known Abigail well, but her story tugged at something deep in me. Maybe it was the way she'd carried herself, head high despite the stares and gossip. Willow Creek wasn't kind to unwed mothers. Folks here clung to old ways, judging harder than a hanging judge. I'd seen her once at the general store, her blue eyes fierce as she bartered for fabric, her belly rounding out her simple dress. She'd reminded me of Elisa Strong, beautiful, broken by circumstance, as the sheriff organized a few men to fix the grave proper. I trudged back to Ward Town, my boots sucking at the mud. The road wound through sagebrush and scrub oak, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and distant thunder. My mind wandered to Eliza again, the way her laughter had filled our ranch house. Now silent save for the creak of wind through the rafters. 16 years and the pain hadn't dulled. It had just burrowed deeper, like a thorn in my soul. By the time I reached Main Street, lanterns flickered in windows, casting long shadows. A crowd had gathered on the porch of Widow Hargrove's place, voices raised in heated debate. Widow Hargrove was the town midwife, tough old bird in her 60s with gray hair pulled into a tight bun and hands that had delivered half the babies in the county. She'd fought to save Abigail and lost. But now she was stuck with the twins. I pushed through the throng, catching snippets of talk. Them poor mites, no pa, no kin. What's to become of them? Orphanage in Silverton, someone suggested. 2 days' ride, but it's overrun. In this weather, they'd freeze afore they got there, another countered. Widow Hargrove stood, arms crossed, her voice cutting through like a knife. I've done my duty, kept 3 days, fed goat's milk round the clock, but I got my own grandkids to mind. Someone's got to step up, or it's Silverton tomorrow. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Times were hard. Drought had hit the ranches, prices for cattle plummeted, and folks were scraping by. No one wanted extra mouths to feed, especially bastards born of scandal. I edged closer to the window, peering inside. There, in a wooden crate lined with faded quilts, lay the 2 tiny forms. The boy had a tuft of dark hair, the girl nearly bald, both with that wrinkled, red-faced look of newborns. They were awake but quiet, little fists waving like they were battling invisible foes. Something twisted in my chest a pang so sharp it stole my breath. They looked so vulnerable, so alone in this unforgiving world. Memories flooded me, Eliza's labor, the midwife's grim face, the stillborn cry that never came. I'd held our son once, cold and lifeless, before burying him beside her. That loss had hollowed me out, turned me into a ghost haunting my own life. Work the ranch, eat alone, sleep in a bed too big for one. Rinse and repeat, year after year. But these kids, they were alive, fighting. Maybe that's what broke me. You planning to gawk all night, Elijah Hawthorne? Widow Hargrove's sharp eyes pinned me from the doorway. I removed my hat, twisting it in my hands. Ma'am, could I see him? Her expression softened just a touch. She'd been there for Eliza's end, seen my grief up close. Come in then, quiet like. They just ate. The house smelled of boiled milk and lye soap. I stepped to the crate, my boots thudding softly on the plank floor. Up close, they were sturdier than they looked. Twins often came small, but these had fight in them. The boy grabbed my finger with surprising strength, his dark eyes locking onto mine. It felt like a spark, igniting something long dormant in my soul. Boy's older by 10 minutes, Hargrove said. Both got lungs like bellows. Need names soon. I nodded, unable to speak. That grip. It pulled at me, stirring emotions I'd buried deep. Love, no, not yet. But a fierce protectiveness, like guarding a fragile flame in a storm. What if I could give them what I'd lost? A home, a father. Foolish. Maybe, but in that moment, it felt like destiny. I'll take 'em, I heard myself say. Voice steady, despite the quake inside. Hargrove blinked. Elijah, you serious? You're alone out there 6 miles from town. What do you know about babies? Nothing, I confessed. But I can learn. They'll have shelter, food, warmth. Better than some overcrowded orphanage. She studied me, then sighed. Town'll talk. A single man with infants. Ain't proper. Let 'em talk. They've jawed about me before. After Eliza, the whispers had been endless. Poor Elijah, broken man, destined to die alone. Fine, she relented. But you stay tonight. Learn the basics: feedin', changing, burpin', and you'll need supplies. It wasn't a whim. It was a reckoning. That night, as rain pattered on the roof, I held the girl while Hargrove showed me how to mix goat's milk. Her tiny weight in my arms felt right, like filling a void I'd ignored too long. But doubt crept in. What if I'd failed them like I'd failed Eliza? Morning came gray and drizzly. I bundled the twins in blankets, hitched my wagon, and headed out. The road was a slurry of mud, wheels bogging down every few yards. Folks watched from doorways, murmuring. Old man Jenkins, the storekeep, shook his head. Elijah, you lost your mind? Maybe I called back, or found my purpose. The ranch loomed ahead, a sturdy log cabin with stone foundation, built for a family that never grew. Inside, dust motes danced in the weak light. I cleared a dresser drawer, lined it with soft linens from Eliza's hope chest, and set it by the stove for warmth. The twins stirred as I laid them down, the boy fussing first. Easy now, little fella, I murmured, fumbling with the bottle. Milk spilled down my shirt, but he latched on eventually, his suckling sounds filling the quiet house. When the girl woke, crying thin and piercing, I rocked her in Eliza's old chair, the one I'd avoided for years. It creaked under my weight, a familiar rhythm that brought tears stinging my eyes. Hours blurred. Feed one, change the other, repeat. Exhaustion hit like a stampede, but each time I looked at their faces, peace settled over me. This was love in its rawest form, not the passionate kind I'd shared with Eliza, but a deep, protective bond that mended cracks in my heart. That first night, a storm rolled in fierce, thunder booming like cannon fire, wind howling through cracks in the walls. Rain hammered the roof, leaking in spots I'd meant to patch. The twins wailed in terror, and panic gripped me. Water pooled on the floor, inching toward their makeshift crib. Damn it all, I growled, grabbing my oilskin coat to drape over them. Lightning flashed, illuminating their frightened eyes. I scooped them up, one in each arm, and hunkered by the stove, singing an old trail song Eliza loved, "O Shenandoah, I long to see you." ... double quotes. My voice cracked, rough from disuse, but it calmed them. As the storm raged, I prayed not to God but to Eliza's memory. Help me do this right, darlin'. For them,